In Book 4 of the Republic, Adeimantus claims Socrates has outlined a miserable, unenviable existence for the guardians of the ideal state. Why should such high-ranking citizens be required to live devoid of luxury and material comforts? Socrates replies by asserting the group should focus on the happiness of the entire state and not on one particular class. It's likely the guardians will be the happiest of mortals. Socrates proposes wealth and poverty are the two causes of deterioration in the arts. Wealth begets carelessness, while without any money, an artist can't afford to purchase his tools. Adeimantus asks how the ideal city will be able to wage war if it's deprived of material resources. Socrates stresses the unity of the ideal state and the utility of its allies. The state should be as large only as is consistent with the goal of unity. After some discussion of education and nurture, legal reform, and religious matters in the ideal state, Socrates persuades Glaucon to agree there are 4 principal virtues: wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. Wisdom and courage are found in separate classes or parts of the state. Temperance resides in the state as a whole. Justice is the social harmony of classes within the state. If each class pursues its own business and declines to meddle in the affairs of the other classes, justice is perceived as a social condition rather than as one or more specific actions. Just as there are 3 classes in the state, lower, middle, and high, there are 3 hierarchically ranked divisions of the human soul. Each individual soul possesses a part concerned with learning and wisdom, and a spirited part, which is divided into the desire for honor and the operation of the earthly appetites like food or sexual intercourse. Each part of the soul performs its own task without conflict or dissension in a state of unity. Injustice may be defined as strife among the different parts of the soul. In Book 5 of the Republic, Glaucon and Adeimantus join forces with Polemarchus and Thrasymachus to press Socrates into more fully explaining family life in the ideal state. Socrates begins with a surprising assertion. In the ideal state, men and women will be reared and trained on an equal basis and regarded on an equal plane. Both men and women potentially have the talents and temperament suitable for the class of guardians. Socrates next proposes guardians in the ideal state should hold their wives and children in common. The detailed recommendations for implementing this plan are all directed toward ensuring the unity of the state, including procreation festivals, age spans for childbearing, pairings of males and females by lot, and rules to avoid incest, among other details. Socrates' objective is to eliminate any possibility of conflict within citizens. To avoid a division of loyalty between state and family, parents should not be able to identify their own biological children, and vice versa. After some comments by Socrates on warfare and slavery in the ideal state, Glaucon wonders, is the establishment of such a city remotely possible? Socrates responds by upholding the ideal of models and the goal of perfection. Hey, artists are entitled to envision and delineate perfection, whether or not a perfect specimen of anything or anyone can actually exist. On that note, it's possible to specify the conditions that would most likely favor the ideal state's actual coming into existence. This reform is the assignment of power in the state to philosopher kings. Genuine philosophers are lovers of the vision of truth. Only when such persons hold the reins can the state In Book 6 of the Republic, Socrates defines the true philosopher as a person who loves the knowledge that reveals the nature of eternal truths, is absorbed in the pleasures of the soul, and will have a gentle, sociable, harmonious nature. Adeimantus objects, asserting, according to common opinion, philosophers are rogues or idlers. Socrates responds with a parable about a ship's captain whose senses are declining, a mutinous crew, and a true pilot. The pilot represents the authentic philosopher, but is marginalized and maligned by the crew. Socrates continues by commenting on the ease with which philosophic natures are corrupted. The most gifted minds become outstandingly bad when they're poorly educated. Paradoxically, the very qualities that make a man a philosopher may actually deter him from philosophy. Socrates returns to the notion the philosopher king in the ideal state must devote himself to discovery and contemplation of the highest good. Such activity is only achievable through the means of dialectic. The philosopher will engage with absolute truth, beauty, and temperance, and distinguishes the forms or absolute ideas of these qualities from their human copies. Socrates defines goodness by likening the ways the sun reveals the visible world to human powers of sight to the way goodness illuminates intelligible things. Absolute goodness allows one's intelligence to distinguish truth. Ordinary senses cannot understand true reality. People need absolute goodness to understand things as they truly are. Socrates soon follows up with the analogy of the divided line, which ends up representing the visible world and the intelligible world, and within them, the imaginative conjecture or opinion, belief concerning visible things, some ideas or knowledge, and pure ideas or forms. The divided line presents a hierarchy ranging from lowest to highest in terms of truth, conjecture, opinion, thought or knowledge, and finally understanding or reason. Book 6 is